I'm gonna whip up sour cream noodle bake. It's an old-fashioned recipe. It's real meaty and cheesy, and my husband and kids love it. Now I've got 2.5 pounds of ground beef that's all brown. Now normally I would drain off all the fat after this, but there's hardly any fat to drain, so that's convenient for me. Now into the beef, I'll add 2 cans of just regular tomato sauce. Then I'll add a little salt and pepper. And then just to give it a little kick, I'll add some crushed red pepper, not too much. Okay, now I'm gonna let the sauce simmer. Now I have 1 pound of just regular old egg noodles. They should be ready. So I'll just drain them into a bowl. It's a really great layered dish. Really simple, but still lots of things going on. Okay, now I'll just add some creamy stuff to the noodles. First, about 2.5 cups of just regular cottage cheese. And if you think you don't like cottage cheese, don't worry, you won't even know it's in there, I promise. And then I'll add a good cup of sour cream, some salt and pepper. And then part of what makes this so delicious, I add a good amount of green onions. The green onions just add a really nice tang, a really deep flavor. And because the noodles are hot, it sort of melts the creamy mixture. All right, the creamy mixture is totally coating the noodles. So now it's just about assembling it. I'll start with 1/4 of the noodles. I'm doubling the regular recipe, so I have to keep track of the amounts I have. Just throw about 1/4 in there. That looks good. And I'll smooth them out. And then I'll just ladle 1/4 of the sauce over the noodles. The original sour cream noodle bake recipe calls for just combining all the sauce and all the noodles together. But I really like layering it because it keeps the elements separate. And then every bite you get a little bit of cheese, a little bit of creaminess. It's really nice. And then I'll top this layer with some grated sharp cheddar cheese. And I grated this myself. I like the consistency of cheese you grate yourself rather than the pre-grated stuff. Okay, now on to the next layer. Now I'll top the final layer with more cheese. Okay, now these are all assembled. I'm just gonna let them cool and pop them in the freezer, and then they'll be ready to throw in the oven whenever we want them. All right, I had some onions and garlic browning in a pan, and I just added 1 pound each of ground beef and Italian sausage. And I'm just gonna break this up as it browns. I'll add a 28-ounce can of whole tomatoes, juice and all, and then a couple of regular cans of tomato sauce. You can also do jarred marinara sauce if you have that. Either one will work. And then just to give it a little spice, I know the 6 Drummond kids can handle it, some crushed red pepper flakes, and then about a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I love this baked ziti. Anytime I have to feed a bunch of people, I whip it up. Then a little salt and pepper. Okay, now I'll just let the meat sauce simmer for about 25 to 30 minutes to make sure it's really flavorful. And while it simmers, I'll whip up the cheese mixture for the baked ziti. So the first cheese is ricotta, just a tub. The next is mozzarella. I'll grate 1.5 pounds and add about 2 cups, keeping the rest for later. And I'll also grate 1/2 cup of Parmesan and add it in with the other cheeses. Next, it's 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of minced parsley, some salt, and pepper. And then I'll just stir it together a couple of times. Okay, the cheese mixture's all combined. Now I'll get the pasta in to cook. I'm using 1 pound of ziti pasta. You can do penne, mostaccioli, any short pasta is just fine. Just pour it in. All right, now I'll just let the pasta cook for about 10 minutes until it's done. Now the pasta is all cooked. I rinsed it under cold water because I wanted it to stop cooking. And I'm just gonna pour it into the bowl with the delicious cheese mixture. And then I'll stir this so the pasta gets coated in all that wonderful ricotta, all that mozzarella. Okay, Now the sauce should be slightly cooled, so I'll pour it right in with the pasta and the cheese. Now the purpose of this is just to give the cheese-coated pasta a little bit of a coating of sauce. Now I'll start the layering process. I'll add half of the pasta into this dish, and then I'll spread it all into an even layer. Now I'll top the pasta with half of the sauce. The sauce looks so good. It's been bubbling away. It's really dark and rich looking. You could just boil up some pasta, top it with this. That'd be a great dinner too. Okay, now I'll just spread the sauce into an even layer. Now on top of the sauce, I'll add a little more grated mozzarella. And then I'll start the whole process again. And this is going to be the perfect dinner for those 6 Drummond kids. I'm just gonna cover it with foil. The baked ziti goes in 375-degree oven until it's bubbly, so like 25 minutes or so.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay guys, pass your plates down and I'll serve you up. There we go.
3-sauce baked spaghetti. So I'm gonna start with sauce number 1, which is meat sauce. And I've got some olive oil in a very hot pan, and I just added onion, garlic, rosemary, green bell pepper, and finely diced jalapeno just to give it a little spice. I put in thin spaghetti, so it should be ready to go just about the time the sauces are ready. For any meat sauce I make, I do a combination of sausage and ground beef. I love the combination of ground beef and sausage. Okay, so I'm gonna mush up both meats, cook them with the veggies. It's just gonna take a few more minutes. So I'm gonna make it saucy by adding some tomato paste, about 1/4 cup, and then a whole jar of good quality marinara sauce. Whip out your favorite meat sauce, whatever it is. You can totally use your own for this recipe. Alrighty, I'm gonna add a little salt and pepper to the meat sauce, give it one more stir, and then it just needs to simmer. So that's sauce number 1. For sauce number 2, I'm gonna make a really simple Alfredo. So I'll add a whole stick of butter to a skillet. A whole bunch of heavy cream goes in with the butter. And then salt and pepper. And then I'm gonna turn the heat up under the skillet and just give the butter and cream a chance to heat up and let the butter melt completely. Okay, the cream and butter are hot, the butter's melted. So now's the time for the Parmesan. Parmesan is the basis of Alfredo sauce, so you've gotta add a lot in order for it to be noticed. All right, those 2 sauces are ready to go. Now I'm gonna bring up a baking dish and I'm gonna grab the spaghetti, and it should be just right. All right, so I'm gonna put the pasta straight into the baking dish, and lest you think I forgot about sauce number 3, I did not. Pesto is the 3rd sauce. This isn't something that really exists in the viral baked spaghetti recipe, but pesto is absolutely my love language. I add it to everything. And I thought it would be great to toss the spaghetti in pesto before I add the other 2 sauces. I'm gonna grab this absolutely sinful Alfredo sauce, and it gets poured all over the pasta. Finally, I'm gonna grab this big old pot of meat sauce. And yes, it gets poured right over the Alfredo sauce. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a rim of pasta. God, this is gonna be mostly meat sauce, I tell ya. I've got some mozzarella cheese, and it goes all over the meat sauce. So it's gonna go into a 425-degree oven for about 15 minutes, and then I'll let it rest for 5. So, all right, I'm gonna see if I can do this in one shot. Ready? Look at this, you guys. Oh, that creamy Alfredo. I have tried this before, but I really think I should prove to you how very delicious it is. It is scrumptious. I'm about to make baked goat cheese pasta. So I started by adding some cherry tomatoes to a baking dish, and I'm drizzling on some olive oil. I added some garlic cloves that are sliced and some sliced shallots. And then oregano leaves, lots of flavor, and then salt and pepper, and to give it a little interest, crushed red pepper flakes. I've got 2 little 4-ounce logs of goat cheese, and I'm just nestling them in among the tomatoes. Then a little more olive oil, a little more crushed red pepper flakes, and then come to the oven. But how simple was that preparation? So I'm putting it into a 425-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes until the tomatoes are roasted and that goat cheese is ooey and gooey. I can't wait. Let's look. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, it sure smells good. Wow, look at that. Oh boy, those tomatoes look good. So before I start stirring things up, literally and figuratively, I'm gonna add a couple of big spoonfuls of pesto, because pesto makes everything even more amazing. And I've already got some cooked pasta, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. I'll hold some back just in case. And then I saved some of the hot pasta water, and I'm gonna pour in just a little bit just to make sure this stays really saucy and wonderful. I love that there are little like charred pieces of garlic here and there. This is so easy to make. Can you believe that? The hardest thing was just walking over to the oven twice. Okay, and then I have some basil, and I'll just tear it and put it on. Here you go. It's got tomato and pasta and goat cheese.
That's really good.
That's delicious.
Really, really good.
I know you're a big fan of goat cheese.
I am now.
I certainly am now. This is a winner. I love it. Baked pepper mac and cheese. It's creamy, it's spicy, it is so cheesy, very worthy of the Smith sisters, who are renowned cheese lovers, by the way. Now, I'm starting with the sauce for the mac and cheese, and I just heated some milk in the pan, and I'm gonna grab some softened cream cheese. So instead of making a white sauce with butter and flour, I am kind of taking this shortcut with milk and cream cheese instead of making a white sauce. It's just a little bit of a time saver, and of course, cream cheese is wonderful and creamy and marvelous. Don't tell Betsy I took a shortcut. While the cream cheese is softening, I'll sprinkle in just a little bit of seasoned salt, which I love adding to any mac and cheese. Instead of just regular salt, it always adds just a little underlying flavor that's really, really nice. And I sprinkled in some pepper, so I'll stir it until the cream cheese is totally melted. I love little dinners like this where it's just Betsy and me. You can just have fun with the menu. I'm not making a huge quantity of anything, and I can really bring the spice because Betsy loves spicy food. I love spicy food. Believe it or not, for all his like rugged agricultural prowess, Lad doesn't like spicy food as much as I do. Sometimes I make food that I think is mildly spicy for me, and I'll look over at him and his brow will be sweating, smoke will be coming out of his ears. All right, as you can see, the white sauce, quote unquote, is ready. So now I'm gonna add the cheeses, and I'm adding 3 of them just to drive that cheesy point home. White cheddar, pepper jack, of course, and Gouda, which is just a little bit unusual, but usually when I make mac and cheese, I don't really plan ahead of time what cheeses I'm going to add. I just kind of open my cheese drawer. Invariably, I will have approximately 1,700, small packages of cheese or little end pieces here and there. I do love this combination. White cheddar kind of brings that sharpness. The pepper jack brings a little more spice, and the Gouda is just that wonderful creamy texture. Okay, the cheese almost instantly melted because that milk was so hot. Now I will add the pasta, and it's just campanelle or campanelli. You can use any short pasta. You know, obviously macaroni is the #1 choice, but since this is a sister supper, I wanted to kind of use a frilly, fun shape. There are so many pasta shapes in the world. I could use one every day for a year and not use them all. I might try that sometime, actually. That would be really fun. All right, so stirred the pasta into the sauce, and the pasta is just under al dente because this is gonna bake in the oven, and you wanna give the pasta just a little bit of room to absorb some of the liquid. So now I'll add herbs. I have some torn basil, some oregano, and parsley. And just for fun and for color, a jar of drained pimentos. It's a good thing Paige Drummond isn't here. I don't know what she has against pimentos, but Betsy and I grew up in the 1970s when pimentos reigned supreme, so she will definitely appreciate them. Stir everything together. Oh my gosh, this is looking so saucy and marvelous. 2 words I would use to describe my little sister. All right, I have a buttered baking dish, and it's a small dish. As you can see, I'm not making a huge amount. So I'll pour it in. Now I'll push this so that it's just in an even layer. Now, you're probably wondering where the peppers come in, because this is a baked pepper pasta. So I'm gonna make a little breadcrumb topping. I have a bowl of seasoned panko crumbs, and I have some melted butter. Actually let it get a little brown, not intentionally, but I think that's going to work out to my favor. And I will stir the crumbs just to get them all coated in this kind of brown butter. I'm gonna call this unintentional brown butter panko topping. Once you have the panko crumbs all coated, then the peppers go in. I have little mini peppers, the kind that come in a bag, and poblano peppers. I just sliced everything thin, took out most of the seeds and membranes, and then jalapenos. Left a little bit of the seeds and membranes in there because that's where the spice comes from. And it's really nice because the mac and cheese itself is not overly spicy, but then it has this kind of peppery topping, and you get a little bite of the jalapeno, and ooh, it's so nice. It's really gonna become kind of peppers coated in these crumbs. There won't be too many crumbs just by themselves once you toss it all together. Now, before I add the pepper panko topping, I'm gonna add more cheese to the top. So this will kind of bake on top of the mac and cheese and just have another layer of cheesiness. This is a mix of pepper jack and white cheddar. And now come the peppers. Give it one more stir to make sure those crumbs are coating the peppers. Oh, they're coating my cutting board too. All right, I'll just kind of spill them all onto the top and just kind of spread them out. So this is ready for the oven, but I'm gonna wait for now and I'll bake it later with the pork I'm gonna serve Betsy. So the oven is on 425 degrees, and I'll put the pork in. I'm gonna baste that halfway through, and I'll put the mac and cheese in, and it'll bake for 20 minutes also. The baked pepper mac and cheese. Here, hold your plate. Oh,
That looks
I gotta
so
go in.
good. Yep.
Mac and cheese
and
is always a
cheese.
good idea.
Oh, yes.
Before we go sit down,
Yes.
let's have a quick bite. The mac and cheese, honestly, is just it's calling
great.
my name. Oh,
I love the pepper.
highly recommend.